Mr. Speaker, Tobago. On May 24th, many Tobagonians, like others across the country, bought into the message of change advanced by the coalition. But now, 114 days later, the first stage of buyer's remorse has set in Tobago, as it has in Trinidad. The 2011 budget represents the clearest manifestation that Tobago will derive any benefit from that decision. Mr. Speaker, there are 5 points I want to raise about Tobago with respect to the budget. Number one, I wish to correct the cleverly crafted misstatement of the Minister of Finance regarding the proportion of the budget that was allocated to Tobago. The Minister correctly indicates that THA's share of the budget would not be defined by minimalist interpretation of the Dispute Resolution Commission findings and its 4% rule. However, the actual allocation to the THA provided by the Minister of Finance is in fact the said 4.3%. As is also true, the overall allocation for Tobago, which should not be confused with the allocation to the Tobago House of Assembly, was again slightly over 5% this year, just as it was last year and the previous years under the PNM. What that means, Mr. Speaker, is that Tobago did get no benefit, no favor from the Minister of Finance. He simply followed the practice established under recent years. Same thing. The change of government changed nothing for Tobago's allocation. What the minister also did was to give Tobagonians the assurance. What he did not do was to give Tobagonians the assurance about the continuation of those projects and initiatives which central government was not legally bound to fund, but which were informed by a genuine desire on the part of the previous government to facilitate meaningful development in Tobago. Such projects and initiatives include the desal plant at Cove, the activation of wells at Mount Irving, Englishman's Bay and Bacolet, and the facilitation of enterprise development at Cove. In this context, Mr. Speaker, let me say that while the minister tried to create the impression that the 2011 budget fiscal allocation to Tobago was the largest ever, if he had only done his homework, he would have discovered that in recent years, the recurrent and development program allocations of Tobago House of Assembly are as follows. 2007, 1.64 billion. 2008, 1.75 billion. 2009, 1.993 billion. 2010, 1.77 billion. 2011, 1.96 billion. The evidence is clear, Mr. Speaker. It was the PNM in 2009 allocating the largest volume of recurrent expenditure and development program money to Tobago at 1.993 billion, Speaker, right? Mr. Speaker, that 1.993 is always larger than 1.960. Mr. Speaker, with respect to the percentage of the THA's budget funded by central government, in 2007, the requests were funded at the level of 58.7%. 2008, 61.8%. 2009, 68.3%. 2010, 61.8%. 2011, 54.3%. So you see what the difference. Mr. Speaker, thus Tobago received the lowest percentage of what was requested, not under the PNM, but under this coalition, with the percentage falling from a record high of 68.4 under the PNM in 2009 to 54.4 under this government. The second issue, Mr. Speaker, in Tobago concerns the question of the collaboration issues. Mr. Speaker, the sector remains crucial to Tobago's development, and over the past decade, starting with the Basdio Pandey administration, the Tobago House of Assembly and the central government has worked closely. It is therefore troubling that despite their partnerships manifesto, which says collaboratively with the Tobago House of Assembly and the tourism sector to ensure that tourism is sustainably developed in Tobago, the Minister of Finance would come to Parliament and announce a proposal concerning some luxury resort in Tobago before any initial discussion or consultation with the Tobago House of Assembly. If the Minister is genuinely convinced of their urgent and immediate need to expand the stock of high-quality rooms in Tobago, he should urge his cabinet colleagues to move more expeditiously to facilitate the renovation works at the former Hilton, which we are now calling the Vanguard Hotel. The minister also spoke of encouraging direct flights to Tobago, but even a cursory consultation with the THA would have informed the minister that that is already in place. This explains, it is this lift that he's talking about, which explains the direct weekly flights to Tobago by British Airways, Virgin Atlantic, Monarch, and Condor. The result of marketing arrangements which were already in place when the minister looked in Tobago's direction. It is meaningful collaboration, Mr. Speaker, not unilateral action, which would guarantee the future of tourism in Tobago. Mr. Speaker, the third issue I wish to mention, it is respect to the government's response to the island's economic diversification effort. The budget offers inadequate support for many of Tobago's emerging industries that are now at takeoff stage. For the island's cassava processing initiative, a project which has been endorsed by our present Minister of Government, there is no support there for Tobago's commercial fishing or fish processing. There is no mention of support for Tobago's venture capital initiative. And of course, Mr. Speaker, there are other things that have been requested for which the government has given not even an acknowledgement to the relevant letter. The rhetoric of their manifesto and the budget is not matched by tangible support for Tobago's economic development. Mr. Speaker, on the fourth issue, it concerns the environment and the development oddity introduced in the budget, something called Northeast Tobago Growth Pool. If the minister had chosen only to ask, he would have been told that the Assembly already has a Northeast Tobago development plan that is progressing and is being implemented under the marketing design, keeping Tobago clean, green, safe, and serene. That's Tobago's marketing slogan. Mr. Speaker, the people of Tobago view the proposed excursion into Northeast Tobago without consultation as yet another signal threat to the autonomy of the Tobago House of Assembly. And this could be inimical to the fostering of a harmonious relationship between the central government and the Tobago House of Assembly. Not to mention that the promise of unsolicited, bumbling development prescriptions could open the door for the permanent destruction of the very tranquility and natural beauty which offers Tobago its unique place in Caribbean tourism. And finally on Tobago, Mr. Speaker, with respect to the Scarborough Hospital, we have noted the ridiculous comments of the Minister of Health regarding engineering and other issues on this project, and subsequently the equally, if not more, outlandish remarks of the Prime Minister about the cost per bed. But both comments show, regrettably, an utter lack of understanding of the history or content of this project. But we trust that the provisions made in the budget for the Ministry of Health are adequate for the completion of the hospital. Mr. Speaker, with respect to the Shore Park Cultural Complex, the Financial Complex, and the Scarborough Library, the Finance Minister cannot just complain about the projects. He must also ensure that the resources are provided in a timely fashion in order to facilitate the completion of these projects. Mr. Speaker, since the budget, I have been given the assurance by the Tobago House of Assembly that despite sharing the disappointment of the minority leader over the allocation to Tobago, despite the misstatement of the minister, and despite the abandonment of the election pledges, the Assembly will remain focused on continuing to improve the quality of life of all Tobagonians. The Assembly and the people of Tobago will certainly have to reprioritize the range and scope of activities previously planned for the next fiscal year. And I have been informed that all sectors, communities, and interest groups on the island will be involved in the process. I urge central government to collaborate with the Assembly in efforts to increase the developmental trust in Tobago and resist the temptation to engage in acts of political collusion to the detriment of the people of Tobago and the Tobago House of Assembly.